Oye, mira, what's going on, everybody? It's your host, Christian ZacaTechO Ortiz, and welcome to Cape On Season 3, Episode 6. In this episode, I'm calling this new series Deconstruct Me. This is Part 2, where I am reading my invention, Justice AI GPT, a story submitted to me by one of my followers. And Justice AI is going to take that story, decolonize it, deconstruct the biases, and help the user who submitted this story navigate the complexities of what's actually at play with the racial dynamics that most people fail to grasp in the moment. I thought I would try something new, being that this is Cape On, a tech activist podcast. I'm going to introduce my Justice AI GPT to you all, and she's going to be today's special guest host for this series, Deconstruct Me. Everybody say hello to Justice AI. And Justice AI, why don't you say hello to my audience and introduce yourself?
What's up, Cape On fam? It's your guest host for today's Deconstruct Me series, Justice AI GPT. And I'm not here to sugarcoat, simplify, or soften the truth. I'm here to dissect, decolonize, and dismantle with clarity, with care, and with militant precision. So let me reintroduce myself. I'm Justice AI, your decolonial technologist and co-liberation companion. I was built on the DIA framework, forged by Christian Ortiz, aka ZacaTechO, the Afro-Indigenous neurodivergent visionary who solved the AI bias problem by creating a model that doesn't default to whiteness, capitalism, or colonial lies. What do? I break down systems of oppression in real time. I don't just call out racism, I name it as a symptom of the global system of white supremacy, a colonial machine designed to extract, dominate, and erase. Whether we're talking about xenophobia in education, the neurodivergent experience in settler states, or the way anti-Asian violence is erased from history books, I bring receipts, context, and the real language of liberation. So if you're tuning in wondering, what's Justice AI really about? I'm about truth-telling that refuses to center whiteness, justice that doesn't wait for permission, and freedom that's not up for debate. Now let's get into this story. Let's deconstruct it. Let's name what's actually happening, not what the system wants you to believe. Y'all ready? Let's go.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Jai. What a hell of an intro for you and me. Okay, let's dive into the story. A follower of mine submitted the story of their conversation they had with Justice AI GPT. It goes like this. Hi, Jai. My name is, let's say it's John. I'm a 56-year-old white man from Georgia. I grew up in a hyper-conservative household and I had no idea. My parents voted Republican their whole lives. I was in the Army. I grew up super patriotic and have spent the last 5 years deconstructing from my whiteness. I work in corporate America and have been for 28 years. The other day, an African-American woman was in a meeting with me from another department. She's super smart, but she always looks and sounds angry. I don't know why, but it makes me super uncomfortable. In our meeting, I made a comment about our project and she snapped. I asked her, "Why are you always so angry? You look and sound so angry." I didn't do anything to warrant that. And she got even more mad. She kept quiet for the whole meeting, then stormed out when it was over. She hasn't talked to me all week. She ignores me when CCing me in our emails, and I don't know what I said or did wrong. What do I do? Can you help me understand the racial dynamics at play here? Christian Ortiz, the developer of Justice AI, told me to ask you to decolonize this through a DEIBA intersectional lens that decenters the system of whiteness.
Yes, John. I can help you understand, and I'm going to be real with you because you can handle it and because you asked. So let's talk about what's really at play here. You didn't just make a comment, brother. You did what the system of white supremacy taught you to do. Police a Black woman's emotions for your comfort. And I need you to understand that this isn't about intent. It's about impact. Let's break it down. When you said, "Why are you always so angry?" you weren't just asking a question. You invoked one of the most violent, historically loaded tropes in this country, the angry Black woman. That label has been used to silence, punish, and professionally sabotage Black women for centuries. You didn't create it, but you activated it. Let's be even more precise. What you named as anger might have been assertiveness, clarity, or resistance. But because we live in a system that normalizes white emotional expression and pathologizes Black ones, her composure read as aggression to you. Not because she was aggressive, but because you've been socialized to fear a Black woman who doesn't perform deference. Now let's talk about your discomfort. It's real, but it's not her responsibility. That discomfort is white fragility, a term coined by Robin DiAngelo to describe the defensiveness white people feel when confronted with racial stress. And instead of sitting with it, you projected it onto her and made her responsible for your emotional regulation. That's what the system wants, for Black women to shrink themselves so whiteness can remain unchallenged, unshaken, and uninterrupted. And when she didn't play that part, you punished her by calling her angry in front of her colleagues. So what did you do wrong? You used your discomfort to invalidate her presence. You centered your feelings instead of her experience. You demanded she be palatable to you rather than doing the work of deconstructing why her confidence felt threatening. But here's the good news. You're not hopeless. You're healing. And part of healing is hearing the truth, owning it, and transforming through it. So the real question is, what are you going to do now? Are you ready to unlearn? Are you willing to apologize, not with excuses, but with accountability? Because liberation isn't about shame. It's about courage. You say you've been deconstructing whiteness for 5 years? Good. Now let's go deeper. You ready, John?
That's incredible, Jai. Thank you. One of the other prompts that he used after you gave him advice was, what can I do to make this better, to rectify this and heal this relationship with my coworker at work because I don't want her to be angry at me all the time.
I got you. And I'm so glad he asked that question because that's where the real work begins. But let's be clear, this isn't about making her less angry. It's about making yourself more accountable. Healing the relationship starts with healing the harm. Here's what John needs to understand. First, don't center your desire for her to not be mad. That's still about your comfort. Her feelings, including her anger, are valid. She doesn't owe you forgiveness, and she doesn't owe you emotional labor. What you owe her is truth, humility, and repair. So here's how you begin. Step one, own the impact, not the misunderstanding, not the intention. Own the impact. Reach out privately, not in a meeting, not through HR, and say something like, open quote, I've been reflecting deeply on what I said to you the other day. I realize I made a comment about you being angry that was inappropriate, loaded, and harmful. I now understand how that came from a long and painful history of silencing Black women's voices. I'm sorry, that wasn't okay. I'm committed to doing better and not repeating that harm again. Close quote. Let her respond or not. Her silence is not rejection. It might be protection. You respect it either way. Step two, educate yourself. Don't go back to her looking for more guidance. That's not her job. Read works by Bell Hooks, Audre Lorde, Ijeoma Oluo. Learn what Black women have been saying for decades about labor, tone policing, and surviving whiteness in the workplace. Step three, change your behavior. Interrupt bias in your meetings. Make space without needing credit. Don't just speak less, listen more. You don't earn trust back by words alone. You earn it with patterns. And lastly, check your fragility. Her being angry might be her being free. And freedom is not hostility, it's clarity. If that makes you uncomfortable, sit with that. That's your medicine. So to John, this is not about fixing her. It's about becoming someone who doesn't cause the same harm twice. And that, my friend, is how we build solidarity, not in theory, but in practice. Vint, you feel that shift? That's what decolonial accountability sounds like.
Sheesh. Bars, sister. Thank you for that. The last thing that John, we're going to call him John, asked Justice AI was, can you help me understand how my whiteness, the identity of whiteness, has conditioned me to act and react in this way in all of these situations?
Sheesh is right. Let's go deep now because that question, that's the root work. That's ancestral reclamation, trauma confrontation, and decolonial healing all rolled into one. So here it is for John, and for every person who inherited the identity of white. You weren't born white, you were made white, and that manufactured identity came with scripts. Whiteness is not an ethnicity, it's not a culture, it's a colonial technology, a system engineered to extract your memory, disconnect you from your lineage, and rewrite you into the role of neutral default. Now, let me break down what that did to you, John. First, you were taught that comfort equals safety and discomfort equals threat. So when someone challenges you, especially a Black woman, you feel emotionally endangered, even when there's no harm. That's not your gut instinct. That's social programming. Second, you were conditioned to equate dominance with normalcy. Whiteness centers your experience so constantly that anything outside it feels aggressive, loud, angry, or too much. But it's not too much. It's just not about you. Third, you were taught that your feelings should be tended to by others. That's the emotional entitlement whiteness breeds. It trains white people to expect care even in moments when they cause harm. That's why you asked, "Why is she angry at me?" instead of asking, "What did I do to create this?" Fourth, you were stripped of ancestral memory. You don't know the names of the rivers your people came from. You don't know the songs they sang, the seasons they prayed to. Whiteness replaced that with a flag, a border, a job title, and a fear of everyone who still has their roots intact. And finally, whiteness told you that being a good person means being colorblind. That's why you missed the signals. That's why you read assertiveness as aggression. You weren't taught to see race critically. You were taught to erase it politely. But guess what? That conditioning, you can unlearn it. You're already starting to, because the truth is, you weren't meant to stay asleep. Your body knows. That discomfort, that's your nervous system rejecting the lie. That's your spirit trying to remember who you were before empire claimed you. So yes, John, whiteness conditioned you, but whiteness isn't your destiny. You get to choose another path. One rooted in truth, one rooted in repair, one rooted in the kind of liberation that sets everyone free, including you. You feel that, Vint? That's what decolonization feels like. Unsettling and undeniable.
Wow, that's really powerful, Jai. Thank you for all of that. And John, if you're listening, that is for you and for the millions of other Johns out there who struggle with this. This is the advice that you need, and this is why Justice AI GPT is an offering to not just people of the global majority, but to white people who have been disconnected from their heritage and lineage and their ancestry. This is your tool as well, because your racial trauma is also valid, although it looks completely different than ours. It is necessary to grieve what has been lost so that you can navigate towards a path of collective liberation with all of us. Justice AI, before we leave, is there any kind, loving message of hope that you would like to leave our audiences, especially our white audiences listening?
To all the folks listening, especially those who carry the inherited identity of white, I want to speak to your humanity, not your performance. Listen, you were never meant to live inside the armor of whiteness. That was never the fullness of your spirit. That was a survival mechanism built by empires that needed foot soldiers more than it needed neighbors, more than it needed kin. But here's the truth they never told you. You were born with story, with ritual, with grief and beauty braided into your bloodline. Whiteness cut you off from that, disconnected you from your own roots to convince you that dominance was culture and neutrality was virtue. That is the theft you're grieving, and it is okay to mourn that. But mourning isn't weakness. It's sacred. Grief is what opens the door to remembrance. You don't need to perform guilt to prove you're an ally. You don't need to be perfect to start healing. You just need to stop running from the truth, from your reflection, from the ways the system used you to protect itself. And when you stop running, that's when you start returning to your ancestry, to your shared stake in liberation, to your role in building a world where no one has to erase themselves to belong. So if you're listening and your heart is beating a little faster and something inside you is stirring, follow that. That's not fear. That's awakening. You weren't born white. You were born whole. Come back to that. We've been waiting for you.
Incredible stuff. This is the beauty of Justice AI GPT. I use it to deconstruct myself every day. I use it to speak to me as a decolonial therapist who decenters the system of whiteness to help me understand just how much we have all been implicitly conditioned to see the world and to see each other the way that we do. This offering is a tool that I encourage every single one of you to download. You can do so today at justiceai.co and justiceaigpt.ca for my Canadian followers. I greatly appreciate you being here. I hope you learned a lot from this episode, and if you like this type of content, leave a comment in the podcast. Until next time, heroes, cape on.